Take off your wet clothes, now, in front of me. 16 Japanese women stand frozen in Alabama rain. September 1945. The war is over, but their nightmare, they believe, is just beginning. Keiko Tanaka, 24 years old, signals, operator, shattered legs, stares at the American sergeant pointing at her soaked uniform. Behind him, 8 American soldiers, young, armed, silent. Every propaganda poster she'd seen flashes through her mind. Every training film, every detailed illustration of what Americans do to captured women. This is it. But then Sergeant James Walsh does something that makes no sense. He turns around, faces the wall, his back to them. All personnel, Walsh barks. Face the wall, that's an order. The words hang in the humid air like something impossible. 3 days earlier, Keiko sat in a concrete bunker on Okinawa. 30 Japanese military women crowded into the darkness. A projector flickered against the rough wall, throwing shadows that danced like demons. The narrator's voice cut through the silence, cold and clinical. America wa oni desu. Akuma. Demons. The film showed illustrations, not photographs. Drawings. Detailed. Graphic. Deliberate. American soldiers with red faces, fanged teeth, claws for hands. Women chained to walls, stripped, tortured. Close-ups of instruments. Pliers, knives, branding irons. Text appeared on screen. 67% die within 24 hours. Another slide. The other 33%, worse. The next image showed women being measured with yellow tape measures, numbers written on their bodies in black marker. Americans measure women to assign prices. Keiko's hands clenched in the darkness. Beside her, Yuki Yamamoto, 19 years old radio operator, youngest of the group, vomited into a metal bucket. The sound echoed in the bunker, sharp and wet. Another woman, Hanasato, 26 field medic, 3 years on the front, stared at the screen with eyes that had stopped registering shock long ago. She'd seen worse. In Manila, done by her own side. The film continued. The final revenge is taken with the body. Specific details followed. They strip you in front of groups. They laugh, they pass you around. When they're done, they inject you with diseases, syphilis, cholera, and watch you die slowly. Close up on injection needles, glass barrels, metal tips, clear liquid, biological experiments. You become test subjects. The final image appeared, a mass grave, naked bodies piled like firewood. An American flag rippling in the background, stars and stripes rendered in stark black and white. The film ended. Silence filled the bunker, heavy, suffocating. Their commanding officer stood, his shadow stretching across the concrete floor. Surrender is not an option. If captured, you know what to do. He handed out grenades, 1 per woman. The metal was cold in Keiko's palm, surprisingly heavy for something so small. 3 days later, her unit was surrounded by United States Marines. 14 women pulled the pins. Keiko reached for hers. Her hand stopped. Not from courage, from injury, shrapnel from mortar fire. 14 fragments lodged in both legs. She couldn't stand, couldn't reach the grenade 3 feet away, couldn't crawl fast enough, the pain shooting through her thighs like lightning with every movement. American Marines kicked open the bunker door. Sunlight flooded in, blinding after hours in darkness. She closed her eyes, waited for the bullet. It didn't come. A Marine, young, maybe 20, scared, pointed his rifle at her. His hands shook so badly the barrel wavered. Another Marine, older sergeant, stripes on his sleeve, pushed the rifle down. She's wounded. Medic. They carried her out on a stretcher, started IV fluids, bandaged her legs with clean white gauze that smelled of antiseptic. She waited for the rape. It didn't come. They loaded her onto a transport truck. Gave her water, real water, clean and cold. She waited for the torture. It didn't come. 6 weeks later, after ship transport through Hawaii and California, she arrived at Fort McClellan, Alabama, alive, which meant the worst was still coming. Private Daniel Morrison, 22 years old, Army medic, stands guard outside the processing tent. Rain pours. Alabama in September is hot, humid, miserable. Water drips from the canvas roof in steady streams, forming puddles in the red clay mud. He watches the trucks arrive. Canvas covered, military gray. 16 Japanese women are offloaded. Wet, shaking, eyes fixed on the ground. Morrison's jaw clenches so hard his teeth hurt. They look just like the women who killed Sarah. Manila, 1943. The memory hits him like a fist. Sarah Morrison, 24 years old, Army Nurse Corps. Stationed at Sternberg Hospital, dark hair always pinned perfectly under her cap. Laugh that could light up a room even in the middle of war. December 28th, Japanese forces overran Manila. Sarah's last letter arrived in February 1944, delivered by Red Cross, envelope stained with dirt and something darker. The paper inside barely legible handwriting that started neat and descended into desperate scrawl. Morrison keeps it folded in his left breast pocket, reads it every night before sleep. The paper is soft now from handling edges worn thin. Daniel, if you're reading this, I didn't make it. The Japanese soldiers found the hospital. We tried to hide the patients, but they knew we were here. I can hear boots in the hallway. Heavy, methodical. They're checking every room. I'm hiding in a supply closet with 3 wounded Marines. We have 1 grenade between us. Private Chen is holding it. His hand is shaking so badly I'm afraid he'll drop it. We all know what happens if they take us alive. The stories from other hospitals. Nurses captured, found weeks later. What was done to them before they died? Chen just whispered on 3. We pull the pin. I agreed, we all did. I'm writing this as fast as I can because I need you to know something. Don't hate them, Danny. I know you will. God knows I hate them right now. But don't carry that hate your whole life. Because here's what I realized in these last few minutes. Those Japanese soldiers in the hallway, they're probably terrified too. They've been told Americans are demons, that we torture prisoners, that we're not human. And you know what? In this war, we've done terrible things too. Maybe not like this, but terrible nonetheless. So don't hate them. Don't let this war turn you into someone who sees enemies instead of people. I hear the door opening. Chen is counting. 1, 2. I love you, Danny. Tell Mom I wasn't afraid. That's a lie. I'm so scared I can barely hold this pen. 3. The letter ends there. Blood spatter on the bottom corner, brown now with age. Sarah was 24. Morrison was 20. He enlisted 3 days after receiving the letter. Now standing in Alabama rain, Morrison stares at these 16 Japanese women. They're terrified, just like Sarah was. He wants to hate them. God, he wants to hate them, wants to see them suffer the way Sarah did, wants them to know what it feels like to wait for death in a dark room with a grenade and no way out. But all he sees is Sarah's face. Sergeant Walsh appears beside him, 38 years old, World War I veteran, face like weathered leather, voice like gravel. You good, Morrison. Morrison's voice cracks. Why are we being kind to them, Sarge? Walsh is quiet for a long moment, rain drumming on his helmet. Because we're not them. That's the whole goddamn point. Inside the tent, Sergeant Walsh addresses the women through a translator. Young man, Japanese-American from California, interned during the war, now working for the Army. His voice is careful, precise. Keiko understands some English. Not much, but the tone is clear. Military, official, final. Remove your wet clothing. You'll catch pneumonia. The women freeze. This is it, Walsh continues. Standard decontamination procedure. You'll receive clean clothes after. He stops, looks at their faces. Error. Pure, undiluted terror. Eyes wide, breathing shallow. Some of them shaking so hard their wet uniforms ripple. Walsh has seen that look before. France, 1918. German prisoners who had been told Americans cut off the hands of captives. Young boys, 16 and 17, expecting mutilation. He realizes what these women think is about to happen. Walsh's voice goes softer. The translator struggles to convey the change in tone. All personnel, face the wall, now. The 8 American soldiers hesitate. Morrison's fists clench. He doesn't want to turn around. Wants to watch them suffer like Sarah did. Wants them to feel fear the way his sister felt fear in that Manila supply closet. But Walsh's order stands. Private Morrison. That's an order. Morrison turns, slowly, reluctantly, every muscle in his body fighting the movement. All 8 Americans face the canvas wall. Walsh, back still turned, tosses blankets backward. Blind throws. Gray wool lands in mud at the women's feet. Pick them up. Wrap yourselves. remove wet clothing underneath. No one is looking. His Japanese is terrible. Accent thick. Grammar broken. But the message is clear. Keiko stares at the gray wool blanket at her feet. Water soaks into it, immediately darkening the fabric. This is a trap. 27 years ago, Sergeant James Walsh was 18. Doughboy, 1st Division. Meuse-Argonne Offensive. October 1918. His platoon captured 40 German soldiers. Kids, really. 16, 17 years old, terrified, hands up, hands surrendering. Walsh's Lieutenant Southern Boy, mean drunk, wanted to have some fun with them first. Make them dig their own graves. Shoot them one by one. Watch them beg. Walsh was young, didn't speak up, stood there with his rifle while 38 Germans were executed, hands tied behind their backs, shot in the back of the head, bodies falling into the trench they'd been forced to dig. 2 survived, played dead in the pile of corpses, blood from their friends soaking their uniforms. After the armistice, those 2 testified. Walsh's lieutenant was court-martialed, hanged at Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. Walsh wasn't charged. He hadn't pulled the trigger. But he carried it anyway. Carried those 38 faces. Those kids who died because he was too afraid to speak up. I let fear make me a coward once. I watched evil happen and did nothing. Never again. That's why when these 16 Japanese women arrived, Walsh made a decision. They're terrified. They think we're demons. Prove them wrong, not for their sake, for his own. Hana picks up the blanket first. She's oldest, most experienced, 3 years on the front. She's also seen Manila comfort stations, walked past that building where Korean women screamed. If Americans are going to do what Japanese soldiers did to those women, she'd rather it happen to her first. Protect the younger ones. That's what medics do. Under the wool, she strips her soaked jacket. Wet undershirt clings to her skin. She wraps the blanket tight around her shoulders. Americans still face the wall. Morrison's shoulders are rigid. His hands grip his rifle so hard, his knuckles are white bloodless. He's counting in his head. 1, 2, 3. The same count Chen made before pulling that pin. Yuki whispers to Keiko, "Why aren't they turning around?" Keiko has no answer. Because this doesn't match. Nothing matches. Propaganda said immediate assault. In groups, laughing, hands tearing clothes. Violence is entertainment. Reality is 8 men with their backs turned, in silence, respectful, almost reverent in their stillness. One by one, the women wrap themselves in gray wool. Walsh, still facing the wall, voice steady. When ready, proceed through the canvas partition. One at a time, medical staff waiting. Medical staff, Keiko wraps her blanket. Her shattered legs scream with every movement. 14 pieces of shrapnel shifting under skin. She's the last through the partition, hobbling each step agony. Behind the canvas, 4 metal drums. Steam rises from heated water, curling upward in the damp air. 3 American nurses, white uniforms, Red Cross armbands, clean hands, no men. Keiko's brain short circuits. Why only women? Nurse Elena Reyes, 25 years old, Mexican-American, dark hair pinned under her cap, approaches with a towel. Sukoshi Nihongo Hanashimasu. I speak a little Japanese. Terrible accent, words clumsy. But the effort. Why would an enemy learn Japanese? Reyes gestures to the water drums. Arau. Kenko no tame. Wash. For health. Keiko stares. In the corner, Hana sits wrapped in a clean white towel. Alive. Untouched. Face showing confusion instead of pain. Yuki emerges from behind a privacy screen. Also wrapped. Also untouched. Crying silently. Not from pain. From confusion. From the collapse of everything she'd been told. Reyes holds out a towel to Keiko. Please. Water is warm. Keiko steps into the metal drum. The water hits her shoulders. She gasps. Not from pain, from sensation. First warm water in 7 months. First time her body has felt anything other than cold hunger fear. Lye soap burns slightly. Harsh. Military grade. But it removes layers of dirt, blood, the stink of infection that's been growing around the shrapnel wounds. Her shattered legs throb under the water. But the warmth. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be warm. Why are they giving us warmth while Keiko washes? Reyes makes small talk. Broken Japanese mixed with English. Gestures filling in the gaps. You are from where in Japan, Keiko? Haltingly. Osaka. Ah, beautiful city. I see picture once. Silence except for water dripping. Keiko finally asks in broken English, why you learn Japanese? Reyes pauses. Her smile fades. Something shifts in her eyes, old pain carefully managed. My brother, Miguel. He died at Wake Island, December 1941. Keiko stops scrubbing. Reyes continues, voice steady but quiet. I was so angry. For 1 year I hated all Japanese people. Hated your language, your culture, everything. Then I realized, hate was making me bad at my job. And my job is keeping people alive. She looks directly at Keiko. So I learned Japanese. 2 years of study, still not good. But I try. Keiko's throat closes, tightens. Words won't come. We killed her brother, yet she's healing us. Keiko is guided behind another screen. Clean American military clothes wait on a wooden bench. Women's sizes, pressed, folded neatly. How did they have women's sizes ready? Dr. Margaret Ellison enters. 42 years old, gray-streaked hair pulled back, captain's bars on her collar, eyes that have seen too much but haven't stopped caring. Through the translator, I need to examine your legs. The shrapnel. May I permission. From a captor, from a conqueror. Keiko nods, barely visible, afraid to move too much as if sudden movement might break whatever spell is keeping her alive. Ellison kneels. On the wet floor, her uniform soaks through at the knees, canvas fabric darkening immediately. She doesn't care, doesn't even seem to notice. Eye level with Keiko now. Not looking down, not standing over. Anata wa enzan desu. You are safe. 3 words. Terrible accent, but clear, deliberate, chosen carefully. The propaganda never showed this. Enemy officers kneeling, ruining their uniforms, to be at eye level with prisoners. Ellison examines the legs. Clinical, gentle, professional. Fingers probe carefully, testing range of motion, identifying each fragment by touch. 14 fragments. Some near bone, some causing nerve damage. This one here she taps gently near Keiko's thigh is dangerous. Close to your femoral artery. Through the translator. Surgery tomorrow. Full anesthesia. 6-week recovery. You'll walk normally again. Walk again. Keiko hasn't walked without pain in 3 months. Hasn't imagined a future where walking doesn't mean agony shooting up both legs with every step. Now an enemy is promising restoration. Ellison stands. We need measurements for the surgical gown. A nurse appears with yellow measuring tape, the kind used for sewing, for tailoring. Keiko's blood goes ice cold. The propaganda poster flashes in her mind. Detailed illustration. Woman standing on scale, naked numbers written on her body in black marker. American soldier writing in notebook. Height 160 centimeters equals $200. Another soldier measuring bust. 89 centimeters equals brothel grade A. Text below. Americans measure women to sell them. Yuki is already being measured by another nurse. Height 157 centimeters. Written down in a leather-bound notebook. Weight 48 kilograms. Written down. Chest circumference 81 centimeters. Written down. Yuki's face is blank. Waiting for the price to be announced. Waiting for hands to reach. For the auction to begin. Keiko's turn. She stands on the scale. Metal cold under bare feet. The needle swings, settles. How much am I worth? Height 162 centimeters. Weight 51 kilograms. Bust 84 centimeters. The nurse writes it all down. Neat handwriting. Official. Keiko waits for the auction. For the announcement. For the moment when someone says how much money her body will bring. Nothing. The nurse moves to the next measurement. Arm length. For IV placement during surgery, the translator explains. Surgery, IV, not slavery, medicine. But Keiko doesn't believe it yet. Can't believe it. Belief requires trust, and trust died in that bunker 3 days ago. Later that night in Ellison's office, the doctor files the measurement forms in a locked cabinet, each page stamped across the top. Geneva Convention Article 12, Compliance. Walsh enters, rain dripping from his uniform. All 16 processed. Measurements filed. ready for tribunal if needed. Walsh leans against the doorframe. You think we'll need them? Ellison closes the cabinet, turns the key. God, I hope not. But if anyone accuses us of violating protocol, I've got 14 data points per prisoner, proving we followed medical standards to the letter. Walsh is quiet for a moment. How many don't make it in surgery? Ellison sits at her desk, suddenly looking every one of her 42 years. Tanaka, she has a 90% chance. That shrapnel near her femoral artery is the risk. If she'd taken one more step before surrendering, she'd have bled out in under 2 minutes. Silence fills the small office. Just the sound of rain on the roof. Walsh speaks softly. So we saved her life by capturing her. Ellison looks out the window at the dark camp. Or she nearly died trying to avoid capture by people who were going to save her anyway. The weight of that settles in the room. Heavy, undeniable. The cost of propaganda measured in lives that almost ended for no reason. Next morning, medical bay. 16 women gathered in clean uniforms. Nervous, waiting. A nurse brings in a tray, metal, sterile. On it, a glass syringe, clear liquid, metal needle catching the light. All 16 women see it simultaneously. The training film, June 1945. The bunker, the projector, Americans experiment on prisoners. Drawings on screen, prisoner strapped to table. American doctor drawn with exaggerated features. Hook-nosed demon eyes, holding syringe like a weapon. Close up, liquid entering arm, veins turning black under skin. Next slide. Prisoner convulsing, vomiting blood, body arching off the table. Final slide. Mass grave, bodies covered in black lesions, skin peeling away. Biological weapons, cholera, plague, syphilis, slow death, days of agony. Another slide. American laboratory, rows of syringes labeled with diseases in neat block letters. You become test subjects. Yuki sees the syringe on the tray, faints, hits the floor before anyone can catch her. Her head makes a dull thud against the concrete. Hana starts hyperventilating, breathing too fast, vision blurring. Keiko's hands shake so violently she can't control them, can't make them stop. 14 pieces of shrapnel shift under her skin with each tremor. This is it, the disease injection, the slow death the propaganda promised. Dr. Ellison picks up the syringe, examines it against the light. Clear liquid catches the sun through the tent opening, throwing small rainbows. Then she does something impossible. She rolls up her own sleeve. Left arm, exposes her forearm. The women stare. Ellison swabs her own skin with alcohol. Sharp smell cuts through the tent, medicinal and clean. She inserts the needle into her own flesh. A tiny amount of liquid disappears under her skin. A small bump forms beneath the surface. Red, raised slightly. She shows her arm to all 16 women, holds it up, lets them see. Tuberculin test. If I had tuberculosis, this spot would swell within 48 hours. I don't have TB, so it won't swell. She holds up a fresh, sterile needle, still in its paper wrapping. Same test, same substance. For your protection and ours. TB kills thousands every year. We test everyone. American soldiers, POWs, medical staff, everyone. She injected herself. Same liquid, same needle. No convulsions, no black veins, no death. Keiko's propaganda conditioning the hairline crack from the hot water widens into a fissure. Same substance. She didn't lie. Ellison approaches Keiko with the fresh needle. May I? That word again? Permission. Keiko extends her arm, slowly, every muscle screaming to pull back. Ancient survival instincts demanding she run, fight, do anything except submit. Alcohol swab, cold against skin, needle, brief pressure, sharp then gone, small bump under skin, red, just like Ellison's. She waits for the burning, the pain spreading up her arm, the onset of disease, the beginning of the end. Nothing comes, just a small red mark, identical to the doctor's, harmless. Around her, all 16 women receive the test. None die, none convulse, none turn black, none vomit blood. The propaganda lied about this too. Morrison delivers medical supplies, wooden crate of bandages and antiseptic. sees the women being tested as he sets the crate down near the entrance. His eyes flick to Keiko. That grief again, fresh every time he looks at them. Reyes notices, whispers to another nurse, but Morrison is close enough to overhear. His sister was in the Philippines. Army Nurse Corps, captured by Japanese forces. She didn't survive. The other nurse, older from Tennessee, shakes her head. God, how can he even look at them? Reyes watches Morrison's back as he walks away. Because he knows what they expected. Sarah experienced what they feared. From our side. Morrison turns away quickly, exits into rain. But Keiko saw his face, saw the way his jaw clenched, the way his hands became fists. He lost someone he loved. And we look like the people who killed her. Night falls, clean cots with white sheets, gray wool blankets, the same blankets from the tent washed and dried, smelling faintly of soap. Keiko lies awake. Rain patters on canvas roof. Steady rhythm. Almost peaceful if she didn't know better. Her arm still shows the small TB test mark. Not poison, not disease, just a test. Medical procedure. Routine. Beside her, Yuki whispers into the darkness. They lied. Keiko turns her head. Who everyone? Our officers, the training films, the posters, everything we were told. Silence except for rain. Hana, 2 cots over, sits up. Maybe this is the trap. Maybe they're being kind first, breaking us down, making us trust. Before they do what we know they'll do. Yuki interrupts, voice sharp. Before what? They had us alone. Vulnerable, wet clothes. They had every opportunity. They turned around instead. More silence. Longer this time. Heavy with realization. The rain intensifies. Water drums on canvas like fingers on a table. Keiko finally speaks. Her voice is hollow, empty of everything except truth. The propaganda wasn't a warning. The others turned to her. It was a mirror. Hana swings her legs off the cot. What do you mean? Keiko's voice is steady now. Certain. They told us Americans would do terrible things and it captured women. Measure them, sell them, experiment on them, torture them. She pauses, lets the words settle, because that's what we did. To Korean women, Chinese women, Filipino women, in comfort stations, in occupied cities. Another pause. Longer. The propaganda wasn't describing American behavior. It was describing ours. And they projected it onto the enemy so we wouldn't question what our own side was doing. Hana's face goes white, bloodless. She's seen the comfort stations. Manila, that building, those screams. Yuki is crying again, quiet tears running down her face in the darkness. The weight of that realization crushes the room, presses down on all of them like physical force. They weren't warning us about Americans. They were hiding what we were. Outside, rain continues to fall on Alabama clay. Inside, 16 women lie awake in the darkness, everything they believed crumbling into dust and truth. Morning comes with the smell of bacon. Keiko wakes to it. Rich, smoky, foreign. The scent drifts through the barracks like something from a dream, cutting through the smell of canvas and disinfectant. She sits up. Her legs ache, but the pain is different now. Cleaner somehow. Medical, not the grinding agony of shrapnel shifting with every breath. Around her, the other women stir. Yuki rubs her eyes. Hana is already awake, sitting on the edge of her cot, staring at nothing. An American soldier appears at the barracks entrance. Young, maybe 20. Farm boy face freckles across his nose. Breakfast, he says through the translator. Mess hall, follow me. They file out into Alabama morning. September sun already hot. 700 hours and the humidity wraps around them like a wet blanket. The mess hall is a converted warehouse. Long tables, metal trays stacked at the entrance. 150 Japanese male prisoners already seated eating in silence. The women join a line behind them. American soldier behind the counter. Tired eyes, unshaven, doing his job. He doesn't look at them with hatred, doesn't look at them with anything except the exhaustion of a man who's been serving breakfast since 5 in the morning. He plops food onto Keiko's tray. Scrambled eggs, thick, yellow, real eggs, not the powdered substitute she'd eaten for 2 years. 4 strips of bacon, crispy, still sizzling slightly, fat glistening. 2 slices of white bread toast, butter melting into the pores, real butter. Black coffee, hot, steam rising. Keiko stares at the tray. This is bacon. She's seen bacon in propaganda films, always shown as a symbol of American excess, American greed. While you starve Americans, feast on pigs. While your children go hungry, they grow fat on meat. But she's never tasted it. She sits at a long table, metal bench cold through her thin uniform. Around her, male prisoners eat methodically. They've been here 2 weeks. They know this is real. Know it's not poisoned. Know the trap isn't in the food. Keiko picks up the fork. Real metal, not wooden chopsticks or bamboo. Cuts a piece of bacon, brings it to her mouth. The taste explodes across her tongue. Salt, fat, crispy edges giving way to chewy center. Smoky flavor that fills her mouth, her nose, her entire awareness. She's eaten rice fish seaweed for 3 years. Rations that declined steadily as the war turned against Japan. By 1945, 1 bowl of rice per day, sometimes less, sometimes just hot water with a few grains floating in it, called soup to maintain morale. This bacon, 1 strip, this single piece of pig fat has more calories, more protein, more everything than a week of her military rations. She takes another bite, then another. Can't stop. Body screaming for the fat, the salt, the density of real food. Yuki takes a bite of eggs, starts crying into her tray. Silent tears mixing with scrambled eggs, still trained not to make noise, still afraid that sound draws attention and attention draws punishment. Hana eats methodically, face blank, but her hands shake as she brings the fork to her mouth, each bite deliberate, controlled, as if she's afraid to let herself feel what this means. Keiko remembers the numbers whispered in the barracks. American camps, 2,800 calories per day. Japanese rations by 45, 1,200. Half. The difference isn't kindness, it's abundance. America has so much food that generosity is easier than a calculation. Simpler to cook large batches. Serve everyone the same. Treat prisoners like soldiers. Bacon, eggs, toast, coffee, not luxuries, just breakfast. American breakfast, normal, standard, what you eat before work. Keiko finishes her tray, looks down at the empty metal, still hungry numb, full for the first time in 7 months, stomach stretched and satisfied in a way she'd forgotten was possible. She looks around the mess hall, American soldiers eating at separate tables, same food, same portions, same bacon crisping on their plates, same eggs steaming, same toast cooling. No difference. They eat the same thing we do. Corporal Jack Bennett stands guard near the mess entrance. 28 years old, lost his brother at Tarawa, watched him ship out in 1943, never came home. Body found 3 months after the battle, identified by dental records because there wasn't enough left for fingerprints. He watches Japanese prisoners eating bacon. American bacon. Bacon his brother never got to eat again. His jaw clenches, muscle jumping under skin. He turns to another soldier beside him. Why are we feeding them our food? My brother ate hardtack and canned beans for 3 months before they killed him at Tarawa. 3 months of moldy bread and rust-flavored meat. And we're giving them bacon. The other soldier, older from Ohio, just shrugs. Orders. Bennett speaks louder. Meant for the prisoners to hear. Meant for them to know what he thinks. They tortured American prisoners. Starved them. Worked them to death in mines and on railroads. And we're treating them like guests. Sergeant Walsh appears from behind. Quiet like he always moves. 27 years in the Army teaches you to walk soft. Corporal Bennett, a word. They step outside. Rain has stopped, but everything is wet. Red clay mud everywhere. Sky gray and low. Walsh keeps his voice quiet but firm. I know what happened to your brother. I read the reports. Every page. It was brutal, inhumane, evil. Bennett's voice cracks. Then why are we being kind to them? Walsh looks out at the camp. Rows of barracks. Guard towers. American flag hanging limp in humid air. Because we're not them. That's the whole goddamn point. Bennett spits, not at anyone, just frustration, needing somewhere to go. That's not enough, Sarge. Walsh turns to face him directly. It has to be. Because if we become like them to punish them, then they've already won. They've turned us into monsters too. And everything your brother died for means nothing. Silence except for water dripping from eaves. Bennett's hands are fists. I still don't like it. Walsh's voice goes softer. You don't have to like it, Jack. You just have to follow orders. You just have to be better than your worst impulses. That's all any of us can do. Bennett walks away, not satisfied, not convinced, but following orders because that's what soldiers do. Walsh watches him go, knows that anger, carried it himself for 27 years, knows it doesn't go away just because you tell it to, knows it takes work, daily work, the kind that never ends. Next morning, 0600 hours. Keiko is wheeled to the operating theater on a gurney, converted warehouse building, sterilize, bright lights, smell of antiseptic so strong it burns her nose. She's wearing a surgical gown, white cotton, those measurements. They were for this. American nurses prep her, IV line in her left arm, cold liquid flowing into her vein, anesthesia mask ready on a metal tray beside the operating table. Dr. Ellison appears, masked, only her eyes visible, gray eyes, tired but focused. Count backward from 10, in Japanese, Ju, Kyu, Hachi, Nana, Roku. The world goes soft, edges blur, sounds become distant. Go. What if I don't wake up she? What if this is how it ends, San? What if the kindness was real and I'll never know because I'll be gone ni? Sarah, Ichi, darkness takes her like water closing over her head. Morrison sits in the barracks, off duty. Rain's starting again outside. He pulls out paper, pen, starts writing. He writes 2 letters every week, one to his mother, one to himself. The second he never sends, just writes it, folds it, keeps it in the same pocket as Sarah's last letter. Today he writes to his mother. Mom, I stood guard today while they processed 16 Japanese women, POWs. One of them looked terrified when she saw a syringe. The exact same look Sarah must have had when she saw that grenade in Private Chen's hand. I wanted to hate her. God, I wanted to hate all of them. Wanted them to suffer the way Sarah suffered. Wanted them to know what it feels like to wait for death in a dark room with no way out and no hope left. But Sarah's last words keep echoing in my head. Every night, every time I close my eyes. Don't hate them. Don't let this war turn you into someone who sees enemies instead of people. So I'm trying, Mom. I'm trying to see them as people. Trying to see past the uniforms and the language and the fact that they look like the soldiers who killed my sister. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than boot camp. Harder than seeing wounded men die in my arms. Harder than anything. But I think Sarah would be proud. I think she'd tell me I'm doing the right thing even though it feels wrong. Even though every instinct I have screams to hurt them the way they hurt us. I think she'd tell me that being better than our enemies is the only way we actually win. I miss her, Mom. Every day, every hour. But I'm trying to honor her the way she asked me to. Your son, Daniel. He folds the letter, addresses an envelope, seals it, sets it on his footlocker to mail tomorrow. Then he pulls out Sarah's letter, unfolds it carefully. The paper is so soft now it might tear if he's not gentle. He reads it again, for the 1000th time, knows every word, every crossed-out phrase, every place where her handwriting got shakier as she heard the Japanese soldiers getting closer, the blood spatter at the bottom. Brown now, oxidized, but still there. Still proof that these were her last words, her last thoughts, her last gift to him. Don't hate them. He folds it again, returns it to his pocket, over his heart. 3 hours later, Keiko wakes. Groggy, mouth dry, taste of copper, nauseous from anesthesia. Dr. Ellison sits beside the bed, unmasked now, face showing exhaustion. She's been operating since 0600. It's nearly noon. Surgery successful, all 14 fragments removed. Through the translator, young Japanese-American man who looks almost as tired as Ellison. 6 weeks recovery, then you'll walk normally. No pain, Keiko tries to speak. Throat too dry, tongue stuck to the roof of her mouth. Ellison pours water from a metal pitcher, holds the cup to Keiko's lips. Small sips, slow. Rest now, you did well. Keiko's eyes close. Not from anesthesia, from relief so intense it feels like its own kind of drug. I'm still alive. They didn't kill me while I was unconscious. They fixed me instead. Outside the recovery room, Ellison speaks with Walsh. Morrison is nearby checking inventory on medical supplies, pretending not to listen. Listening anyway. All 14 fragments removed, Ellison says. She'll make a full recovery. No permanent damage. Walsh leans against the wall. That's good news. Ellison's voice drops. One of those fragments was lodged directly against her femoral artery. If she'd taken one more step before surrendering, it would have severed. She'd have bled out in under 2 minutes. Nothing we could have done. Walsh is quiet for a long moment, so capturing her saved her life. Ellison looks through the doorway at Keiko sleeping. Or she nearly killed herself trying to avoid people who were going to save her anyway. The cruelty of propaganda, laid bare in one unconscious woman and 14 pieces of shrapnel in a metal dish. Morrison hears this, feels something shift in his chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding, maybe, the beginning of it. They were as afraid of us as we were of them. Week 2, post-surgery, Keiko can walk with crutches now. Physical therapy daily with an American corpsman who speaks no Japanese but shows her exercises with patient demonstrations. One afternoon, heat-oppressive humidity so thick the air feels solid, a young American soldier approaches her outside the medical building. Kansas farm boy. 19, blonde hair, sunburned nose. Here, he says, holds out a glass bottle, condensation dripping down the sides. Cold, impossibly cold in this heat. Through a passing translator, Coca-Cola. It's hot out. You look thirsty. Keiko stares at the bottle. She's seen Coca-Cola in propaganda films. The drink of American imperialism. Poison that makes you dependent. Chemical warfare disguised as refreshment. Drink it once and you'll crave it forever, become a slave to American capitalism. The bottle is so cold it hurts her hand. Feels like holding ice. Didn't know anything could be that cold. The soldier shows her how to use the bottle opener. Metal cap pops off with a hiss. Carbonation escapes in a small cloud. She brings it to her lips, takes a sip. The taste is like nothing she's ever experienced. Sweet. So sweet her teeth ache. Carbonated bubbles sharp on her tongue. Cold rushing down her throat. Flavors she can't name. Sugar, yes, but also vanilla maybe. Caramel. Citrus. Something dark and complex underneath. Her brain lights up. Synapses firing. She's been deprived of sugar for years. Rationed to almost nothing. Body desperate for glucose, for easy calories, for anything that tastes like abundance instead of deprivation. She drinks half the bottle in one long pull. The soldier laughs, not mocking, friendly, genuine delight at her reaction. Slow down, you'll get brain freeze. Keiko doesn't understand the words, but the tone is clear. Kindness, amusement, the sound of someone happy to see another person experiencing something good. She looks at the Coca-Cola label, red and white, curved script, American flag colors. This is not poison. This is delicious. This is everything we were told it wasn't. She finishes the bottle, hands it back, tries to say thank you in English. Comes out wrong, mangled. But the soldier understands, smiles, nods, takes the empty bottle and walks away. Keiko stands in the Alabama heat with the taste of Coca-Cola still sweet in her mouth and realizes something fundamental has shifted. They keep giving us things. Food, medicine, cold drinks, kindness, and we keep expecting punishment that never comes. Night, week 3, barracks dark except for moonlight through windows, 2 in the morning. Keiko wakes to the sound of crying. Not silent this time. Audible sobs. Harsh, raw. Hana sits on her cot, face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Keiko sits up. Her legs ache, but she can move without crutches now. Walks to Hana's cot, sits beside her. Hana. Hana looks up, face wet, eyes red. I can't stop thinking about Manila. Yuki wakes. Other women stir, but stay quiet, listening in the darkness. What happened in Manila? Long silence. Just Hana's breathing, ragged, uneven. Then she speaks. 1944, I was delivering medical supplies, field hospital in the city center. War was already turning bad. Everyone knew it, even if we didn't say it. American forces getting closer, Japanese army retreating, chaos everywhere. I walk past a building, two-story, ordinary looking, windows shuttered, but I heard screaming. A woman, Korean. I could tell by the accent, by the way she formed words even when she was screaming. She was begging, in broken Japanese, learned for this purpose. Please stop, please. I'll do anything. Just stop, please. Hana's voice breaks. Has to stop, breathe, continue. I knew what that building was. Everyone knew. Joe, comfort station, the words we used to make it sound clean, comfortable. As if comfort had anything to do with what happened inside. I knew what was happening to her. Knew exactly. Had seen the women going in and out. Korean, Chinese, Filipino, faces blank, eyes dead, moving like ghosts, and I walked past. Didn't stop, didn't report it, didn't help, didn't even slow down. My orders were to deliver supplies to the field hospital, so I followed orders. Like a good soldier, like someone who cares more about duty than humanity. I heard her screaming for 3 blocks. Could hear it even over the sounds of artillery in the distance, even over trucks and soldiers and everything else. Then it stopped. I never heard her again. Never saw her, never knew if she lived or died or anything. But I knew what we did to her. Hana looks up, looks at Keiko, at Yuki, at the other women listening in darkness. And now I'm here. And Americans are treating us the way I wish our soldiers had treated that Korean woman. The way I wish I had treated her. With dignity, with medicine, with food that's actually food, with respect, with basic human decency. The propaganda told us Americans were monsters, told us they would do to us what we did to occupied peoples, measure us, sell us, use us, destroy us. But we were the monsters, and they're showing us what humanity looks like. Silence fills the barracks, heavy, crushing, the weight of realization pressing down on everyone. Yuki speaks first, voice small. We were told Americans would do to us what was done to that woman. Keiko continues the thought, because that's what our side did. The propaganda wasn't warning us about enemy behavior. It was describing our behavior, projecting it onto them so we wouldn't question our own side. Hana's voice is hollow now, empty. So when Americans captured us and treated us humanely, it wasn't surprising to them. It was normal, their baseline, what they do. The realization settles like sediment in water. Slow, inevitable. They weren't warning us about Americans. They were hiding what we were. Week 4, Keiko walking without crutches now. Legs still ache but manageable. Surgical scars healing clean. Pink tissue instead of infected green. She's near the medical building. Late afternoon, shadows long. Bennett appears. He's been drinking. Not drunk, not exactly, but loosened. Inhibitions lowered. Anger closer to the surface. He doesn't touch her, but he gets close. Too close. Violating the invisible boundary of personal space. You know what you people did to my brother Keiko, understand some English now, enough. But not the details. The tone is clear though. Rage, grief, accusation. Bennett continues, voice getting louder. Tarawa, November 1943. They found him 3 months after the battle, had to identify him by dental records. Want to know why he leans closer? Because they tortured him first, gouged out his eyes, while he was alive. Let him bleed slowly. Took hours. Hours of knowing he was dying. Hours of pain. Keiko's face shows she doesn't understand all the words. But she understands enough. Understands he's talking about death, about suffering, and about blame. Bennett's voice cracks. You don't even understand me. You don't even know what your side did. Don't even care. He raises his hand, not to strike. Maybe, probably not. But the gesture is there. The threat implied. Morrison appears, comes from nowhere. Fast. Steps between Bennett and Keiko. Solid. Unmovable. Stand down, Corporal. Bennett's eyes are wild. She's the enemy, Morrison. Morrison's voice is steady. Cold. She's a POW under Geneva protection. And you're drunk. Stand down, now. Bennett's face twists. Your sister was a POW too, Morrison. Why don't you ask the Japs how that worked out for her? Morrison's fist clenches. For 5 seconds, he's frozen. Every muscle in his body screaming to hit Bennett, to break his nose, to make him hurt the way Morrison hurts every single day. Sarah's voice in his head. Don't hate them. Don't become what you hate. Morrison speaks quietly. My sister's last words were, don't hate them. I'm trying to honor that. You should try honoring your brother by being better than his killers. Bennett stares, mouth open, no words. Then he walks away, unsteady, angry, but walking away. Morrison stands there, breathing hard, fists still clenched. Keiko behind him, silent, watching. He turns to her. Are you okay? She nods, doesn't trust her voice. Through Reyes, who appears with perfect timing like she always does, translator instincts sharp, Morrison says, I'm sorry about Bennett. He lost his brother. His anger is real, but he's wrong to take it out on you. Keiko finds her English, broken but clear. Your sister Morrison stops, throat tight. Keiko continues through Reyes now. I heard. Philippines, captured. I am sorry for your loss. Morrison's eyes go red at the edges. Wet. Keiko adds, we were told you would do to us what was done to your sister. We were wrong. Morrison's voice cracks when he speaks. And I wanted to do to you what they did to Sarah. Wanted to make you suffer. But that would make me just like them. Just another person choosing revenge over humanity. They stand in silence. Two people, two sides. Same grief, same war. Same understanding that hate is easier than healing, but healing is the only thing that actually works. Reyes translates quietly, then excuses herself, leaves them alone. Morrison finally speaks. She told me not to hate. In her last letter, her actual dying wish. I'm trying to honor that. It's hard. Keiko's English is slow but sincere. I understand I was taught to hate you, Americans, demons, monsters. Now I am learning not to, learning you are human, like us. Capable of cruelty, but choosing mercy. Morrison nods. Can't speak. Too much emotion. He walks away. But something has shifted between them. Recognition, maybe. Not friendship. Not yet. But the foundation of it. The possibility. August 15th, 1945. Announcement over camp loudspeakers. Crackling. Distorted. But clear enough. All personnel report to mess hall. Immediate. Mandatory. POWs gather. Confused. Worried. Announcements usually mean bad news. Walsh stands at the front of the room. Behind him, American flag. Beside him, translator. The war is over. Japan has surrendered. Emperor Hirohito has announced unconditional surrender to Allied forces. Silence. Then sound. Not celebration. Not grief. Confusion. Murmuring. People trying to process what this means. Walsh continues. You'll be repatriated within 6 months. Transported back to Japan. Until then, Geneva protocols remain in effect. You'll be treated the same as you have been. Same food, same medical care, same everything. Keiko feels numb. The war is over. We lost. Everything we fought for. Gone. But I'm alive. I'm here. I'm being fed and healed by the people I was told would destroy me. I don't know how to feel. Relief that the war is over. That the killing stops. Grief that Japan lost. That the homeland is devastated. That everything she believed was for nothing. Confusion about what happens now. Who she is now. What identity means when everything you were fighting for is gone. Around her, other women react differently. Some cry. Some sit silent. Some look relieved. Some look lost. Yuki whispers to Keiko, what do we do now? Keiko has no answer. Because she doesn't know. Doesn't know who she is anymore. Japanese soldier who fought for a cause that lost. Pyo who was treated with unexpected humanity. Woman whose understanding of the world was shattered and rebuilt in 3 weeks. All of those. None of those. Outside, rain starts again. Alabama rain. Warm. Heavy. Washing everything clean. 2 weeks after surrender. September 1945. Alabama heat finally breaking. First hints of fall in the air. Walsh enters the women's barracks. clipboard in hand, face serious but not unkind. The women gather, 16 of them, still together, still processing everything that's happened, everything they've learned, everything they've unlearned. Walsh speaks through the translator. The young Japanese-American man from California who's been their voice, their bridge for 3 weeks now. The hospitals are overwhelmed. American wounded still coming in from the Pacific, Japanese wounded being repatriated, civilians from across the theater needing care. We don't have enough staff. He pauses, lets the words settle. Anyone with medical training, translation skills, or administrative experience can volunteer. You'd work in allied hospitals. Japan, Philippines, Hawaii. Wherever you're needed. Another pause. You'd be paid. Same wages as American civilian contractors. Same hours. Same conditions. You'd be employees, not prisoners. He looks at each of them. No pressure. No consequences if you refuse. You can go home when transport is ready. Should be 3 to 4 months. Your choice. The word hangs in the air. Choice. Keiko had forgotten that word existed. Forgotten what it felt like to choose anything. For 3 years, orders came and she followed. That was the entire system. Obey or no middle ground, no gray area. Now an American sergeant is offering choice. Stay or go, help or refuse. Decide for yourself what kind of person you want to be. The weight of it is crushing. Yuki signs first, hands shaking as she picks up the pen, writes her name in careful characters, sets the pen down. I want to be a nurse, like Reyes, like the women who treated us with kindness when they could have chosen cruelty. Hana stares at the clipboard. Minutes pass, long minutes, everyone waiting. Manila haunts her. That Korean woman screams, the way Hana walked past, followed orders, delivered supplies, did her job, ignored humanity. She picks up the pen. Maybe this is how I pay for walking past that building. By helping everyone now. By choosing humanity every single time I'm given the option. By being what I should have been then. She signs. Keiko is last. She stares at the blank line where her name would go. Her internal voice is loud. Overwhelming. I fought for 3 years. Coded messages that sent soldiers to die. Believed I was defending my homeland from demons. Believed surrender meant death. Believed Americans were monsters who would torture and destroy and leave nothing but pain. But the demons gave me warmth, gave me surgery that saved my legs, gave me bacon and eggs and Coca-Cola, gave me respect when they could have given me violence. They measured me to save me, not sell me. They injected me with medicine, not poison. They faced the wall when I was vulnerable. They knelt in mud to be at my eye level. They asked permission before touching me. Every single thing they did contradicted everything I was taught. So what does it mean to help the enemy, or are they not the enemy anymore? Were they ever really the enemy, or were we just taught to see them that way because it's easier to fight demons than humans? She picks up the pen, signs her name. All 16 women volunteer. January 1946. Yokosuka Naval Hospital, Japan. Converted from Imperial Japanese Navy Hospital. American flag flies where the rising sun used to. Everything else mostly the same. Same buildings, same beds, different patients. 60% American, 30% Japanese, 10% other allied forces. British, Australian, Chinese, Korean, all together, all being treated the same. Keiko wears white now. Nurse's uniform, American style, clean, pressed, Red Cross armband on her left sleeve. She walks the ward, 40 beds, 20 on each side, morning rounds, checking vitals, changing bandages, administering medication. Her legs carry her easily. No pain. Dr. Ellison's surgery was perfect. The scars are their pink lines on both thighs, but they don't hurt. Don't limit her. Just remind her every day of the choice someone made to heal instead of harm. She approaches bed 7, American Marine, 19 years old. Face half burned from flamethrower backfire. 3rd-degree burns across the right side. Eye saved but scarred. Skin graft surgery scheduled for next month. He sees Keiko's Japanese face. Panics. Get away from me. His voice cracks. Raw. Terrified. She's Japanese. They're the ones who did this to me, American nurse. Older woman from Massachusetts intervenes quickly. She's here to help, soldier. She's a nurse. She's on our side. Marine's breathing is fast, shallow, hyperventilating. I don't want her touching me. I don't want her near me. Keiko understands enough English now. 6 months of immersion, 6 months of listening, 6 months of learning. She speaks. Slow, careful. Accent thick, but words clear. I know. I am sorry for what happened to you. Please, let me help you heal. The Marine stares. Something in her voice. Sincerity, maybe, or pain, or the recognition that she understands what it's like to be terrified of the people who are supposed to help you. He's in too much pain to argue, too exhausted from another sleepless night, too worn down by months of agony. Fine, but don't hurt me. I will not hurt you, I promise. She changes his bandages. Technique learned from Dr. Ellison, from Reyes, from 6 months of training, gentle, professional, efficient, no wasted movement, no unnecessary pain. The Marine watches her face, sees it focused, compassionate, careful, sees someone who understands suffering because she's suffered too. When she finishes, he whispers, "Thank you." She nods, moves to the next patient. Bed 14, Japanese soldier, 22 years old, leg amputated below the knee. Infection from field surgery in China. Had to take more to save his life. Repatriated 2 weeks ago. He sees Keiko in American-style nurse uniform. Spits, misses, saliva hits the floor beside his bed. Traitor. His voice is venom. Pure contempt. You wear their uniform. You serve them. You betrayed your country, betrayed the emperor, betrayed everything we fought for. Keiko stops, meets his eyes. I serve patients, not countries. His face twists. They are the enemy. She keeps her voice level. The war is over. There are no enemies here, only people who need help. He spits again. Closer this time. You've been brainwashed. They've turned you into their puppet. Keiko doesn't flinch. Maybe. Or maybe I was brainwashed before and now I see clearly. She tends his wound anyway. Changes the dressing on his stump, cleans it, applies fresh bandages, checks for signs of infection, all while he glares at her with pure hatred. He tries to spit a third time. Too weak, too dehydrated. Nothing comes out. 2 days later, his fever spikes. Infection spreading despite antibiotics. Delirious, calling for his mother, for his commanding officer, for anyone who will make the pain stop. Keiko sits beside him all night, cools his forehead with damp cloth, holds his hand when he thrashes, speaks softly in Japanese, tells him he's safe, tells him he'll live, tells him the fever will break. When he wakes the next morning, lucid again, he doesn't spit. He looks away, ashamed, says nothing. But 2 hours later, when she brings his medication, he takes it without protest. The next day, he says thank you. Quiet, almost inaudible. But he says it. June 1946. Morrison rotates to Yokosuka Naval Hospital. Final tour before discharge. 6 more weeks, then civilian life. Teaching job, waiting in Vermont. Small town, high school history. A life so far from war it seems impossible. He walks through the ward, checking inventory, medical supplies, bandages, antiseptic, morphine. Everything tracked, everything accounted for. He sees Keiko, changing bandages on an American soldier, speaking to him in English. Broken, but functional. The soldier laughing at something she said. Not mocking, genuine, human connection. Morrison stops walking. She sees him, smiles, small smile, careful, but real. First time he's seen her smile in 8 months. Through Yuki, who appears like she always does when translation is needed now, fluent in English accents almost gone. You're still here, Morrison nods. Finishing my service. Heading home next month. Back to America. Back to a life that doesn't involve war. Keiko's response comes through Yuki. Learning, teaching, helping, staying. Afternoon. Off duty. Hospital courtyard. Cherry trees planted by Japanese Navy before the war. Late season blooms, pink petals falling like snow. Morrison and Keiko sit on a wooden bench. Yuki translates. Others walk past but give them space. Privacy in a public place. Morrison talks about Sarah, tells the whole story out loud to someone who isn't American, someone who represents the people he blamed for 2 years. Manila, the hospital, the letter, the blood spatter, the grenade, the way Sarah tried to teach him something with her dying words, and he's been trying to learn it ever since. For 2 years, I hated all of you. Every Japanese person, every face that looked like yours, every uniform that resembled yours. I wanted you all to suffer the way Sarah suffered. He pauses, breathes. Then I stood guard when you arrived. September, that tent, that rain. I saw the terror in your eyes. The exact same terror Sarah must have felt when she heard those boots in the hallway. When she knew what was coming. When Private Chen started counting. Another pause. And I realized. You expected from us what Sarah got from them. The cycle. The endless cycle of cruelty justifying more cruelty. Pain creating more pain. Fear breeding fear. Keiko listens. Doesn't interrupt. Lets him speak. Lets him unload 2 years of grief and anger and confusion. When he finishes, she speaks. Yuki translates carefully. Precisely. I thought you would do to me what was done to her. Thought every American soldier was a demon. Thought surrender meant torture and death. Was taught that surrender was worse than death. That's why we had grenades. That's why 14 women pulled the pins. She looks at her hands. But you didn't do what I expected. You faced the wall, gave me blankets, hot water, surgery, food, respect, treated me like a human being when you had every reason to treat me like an enemy. She meets his eyes. Your sister was wise, and brave, and right. She tried to break the cycle with her last words. Tried to teach you that hate just creates more people like the ones who killed her. Morrison's voice is thick. So are you, wise, brave. Staying here, helping both sides, refusing to carry the hate forward. They sit in silence. Cherry blossoms falling around them, pink petals landing on the bench on their shoulders on the ground like a carpet. Two people, two sides, same understanding. Morrison speaks first. I heard you donated your uniform, the wet one from that first day, to the Smithsonian War Museum in Washington. Keiko nods. Someone needs to see what propaganda does. That jacket represents a girl who believed lies, who was so terrified she would rather than be captured by people who saved her instead. People need to understand the cost of teaching populations to hate. Morrison reaches into his pocket, pulls out an envelope. I sent Sarah's last letter to the same museum. Last month. They're displaying it next to your jacket. Keiko stops breathing. Next to my jacket, Morrison nods. Two women, same war, different sides, same fear. They want to show that war creates victims on all sides, that propaganda kills truth before it kills bodies. Long silence. Keiko's voice is soft when she speaks. Your sister and I never met, but we share something. We both expected death from the other side. She got it. I didn't. The only difference is luck. Or maybe geography. Or maybe just the choices of the specific soldiers who found us. Morrison's voice cracks. Same humanity. That's what we both had. What we both have. What war tries to destroy but can't if we refuse to let it. Cherry blossoms keep falling. Tokyo, 1950. 5 years after surrender. Keiko is 29 years old. Leads nursing staff at civilian hospital in Shibuya. Allied supported. Japanese run. 40 beds. Banning to 80 next year. She's trained 12 nurses personally, including Yuki, who now runs a clinic in Osaka. Young women who want to heal instead of harm, who choose medicine over military, who learn from women who learn from Americans who chose mercy. Hana works at a refugee center, helps women, all women, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, Filipino. Women who survived what that woman in Manila didn't survive. Women who need healing that goes deeper than bodies. Hana can't undo walking past that building, can't bring back that Korean woman, can't erase the screams she ignored, but she can honor that woman by helping others, by choosing humanity every single day, by being what she should have been then. In Keiko's hospital entrance hall, small museum display, Glass case, climate-controlled, carefully lit. Inside her wet uniform jacket from September 1945, still stiff with dried mud, still showing the stains of Alabama rain and Japanese fear. Plaque below reads in Japanese and English both. When enemies became patients, 1945. This jacket was worn by Keiko Tanaka, Japanese prisoner of war, who expected death and received mercy instead. She became a nurse healing soldiers of both sides. May we remember that the smallest choices, blankets protocol language learned, can mean the difference between enemy and human. Young Japanese nurse approaches the case, 18 years old, too young to remember the war. Born after surrender, grew up in occupied Japan, learned English in school, wants to be a doctor someday. She reads the plaque, looks at the jacket, sees the mud that stains the evidence of terror frozen in fabric, turns to Keiko, who's passing through the hall, doesn't recognize her. "Excuse me, do you know the story of this jacket?" Keiko stops, considers how to answer. "I know it well." The young nurse's eyes are bright, curious. "What happened to the woman who wore it?" Keiko looks at the jacket, remembers that day, that rain, that fear, the certainty that death was coming and coming soon. She was terrified, believed lies, expected the worst, prepared to die rather than face capture. And she lived, was treated with unexpected kindness. Had her understanding of the world completely shattered and rebuilt. Learned that enemies are made, not born. That propaganda is the real weapon. That humanity exists even in war if people choose it. The young nurse looks back at the jacket. Is she still alive? Keiko smiles. Small, private, in a way. She became someone new, someone better. Spring 1951. Letter arrives from America. Dr. Margaret Ellison, now 72 years old, retired, living in Boston. Small apartment overlooking the Charles River. Quiet life. Books and tea and memories. Dear Keiko, I've followed your work in Tokyo. 12 nurses trained, hundreds of patients saved. Your hospital expanding. I'm proud of what you've become. Proud of what you've built from the ruins. I'm writing to offer you something. A scholarship. Harvard Medical School. Full funding, 4-year program, room and board included. You'd graduate with an MD, become a doctor, not just a nurse. I know it's a large decision. Leaving Japan again, returning to America. The place you once feared more than death. The country whose soldiers you expected would torture and destroy you. But you have the skill, the dedication, the calling, and I believe you can do more good with a medical degree than you ever could without one. The choice is yours, no pressure, no expectations. But I hope you'll consider it. The world needs more healers, more people who choose mercy over revenge, more doctors who understand what it means to be terrified and still show compassion. You're one of those people. With deepest respect and admiration, Margaret Ellison. Keiko stands at the hospital window. Tokyo sunset, orange light through dusty glass. City humming. Rebuilt. Transformed. Different from what it was, but still itself. 6 years ago, she stood in Alabama rain expecting torture. Now Harvard Medical School is offering her a future. The irony isn't lost on her. Yuki visits that evening, reads the letter, looks at Keiko. You should go. Keiko shakes her head. Japan needs doctors. The hospital needs leadership. I can't just leave. Yuki's voice is firm. Japan needs doctors who understand both sides, who can teach the next generation that healing has no borders, that humanity transcends nationality. You can't teach that if you don't finish learning it yourself. Hana agrees when she hears. We learned their language, their medicine, their humanity. Go learn more, then come back and teach us. Teach everyone. Keiko stares at the letter for 3 days, finally writes her reply. Dr. Ellison, I accept. I will arrive in September. Thank you for seeing in me what I am still learning to see in myself. May 1955. Fort McClellan, Alabama. 10 years after the war ended. The camp is mostly abandoned now, used for basic training. Processing center closed. Barracks empty except for memories. Dr. Keiko Tanaka, 34 years old, Harvard Medical School graduate, returns. Invited for the 10th anniversary ceremony of the camp's humanitarian operations. Invited because she's proof that mercy works, that choosing humanity over revenge creates better futures. She walks through the camp. Everything smaller than she remembers. Memory made it enormous. Reality shows it was just a place. Buildings and mud and canvas. The processing tent is still standing, preserved intentionally. Historical landmark now. She steps inside. Canvas walls, same smell. Rain and mud and fear, even 10 years later. Even empty. The smell remains. Footsteps behind her. She turns. Morrison, 32 years old now. Civilian clothes, button-down shirt, slacks, teacher in Vermont, high school history, married last year. Wife is pregnant. First child due in August. I heard you were coming. Had to see you. They embrace. Old friends. People who shared something most people never share. Understanding born from crisis. Connection forged in transformation. Also present. Sergeant Walsh, 65 years old, fully retired, lives in Tennessee, woodworking hobby, makes furniture, chairs and tables that will last generations. Later, after the ceremony ends, Walsh stands alone before the display, stares at Keiko's jacket, Sarah's letter beside it, the surgical notes, the measuring tape, the syringe, evidence of choices made, small choices, life-changing choices. Morrison approaches quietly, stands beside him. Both men silent for a long moment. You okay, Sarge? Walsh doesn't answer immediately, just keeps staring at the jacket. 1918, Walsh says finally, voice rough. I watched 38 German boys die because I was too afraid to speak up. 16, 17 years old. Terrified, surrendering. My lieutenant wanted to make examples of them. I just stood there, rifle in my hands, did nothing. He pauses, breathes, carried their faces for 27 years, every single one. Sometimes I still see them when I close my eyes. Morrison waits, knows Walsh needs to finish. Then 16 women arrived in Alabama, September 45, expecting death, expecting demons. And I got to choose differently. Got to prove I wasn't that scared 18-year-old kid anymore. He looks at Keiko across the room. She's talking with a young Japanese-American veteran, both laughing about something. Don't know if those 38 boys would forgive me, Walsh continues, but I think they'd say I finally learned the lesson their deaths should have taught me back then. What lesson? Walsh's voice is quiet but certain. That being brave isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing the right thing anyway. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Morrison understands. Your sister taught you that, Walsh adds. Took me a world war and 27 years to figure out the same thing. Morrison claps Walsh on the shoulder. Better late than never, Sarge. Walsh almost smiles. First real smile Morrison's seen from him in years. Yeah, Walsh says. Better late than never. Nurse Reyes, 40 years old now, runs nursing school in Texas, trains young women to heal. Still speaks broken Japanese. Still tries. Dr. Ellison, 72 years old, wheelchair now, body failing but mind sharp. Flew from Boston for this, wouldn't miss it. The 5 of them, captive and captors, prisoner and protectors, enemies who became something else. They walked to the new building, museum, the Reconciliation Museum, dedicated to the moment when mercy triumphed over vengeance, when individual humans chose humanity despite every reason not to. Inside centerpiece display, glass case, large, well lit, climate controlled. Keiko's wet jacket, still muddy, still stained, still showing the evidence of that September day. Beside it, Sarah Morrison's last letter, blood spatter visible, brown now, oxidized. But there, real, proof beside that. Dr. Ellison's surgical notes from Keiko's operation, 14 fragments removed, 6-week recovery, prognosis excellent. Beside that, the yellow measuring tape, the one that terrified 16 women. Explanation plaque showing it was Geneva Convention protocol. Medical necessity, protection, not exploitation. Beside that, empty syringe, the tuberculin test, The thing they thought was poison, explanation showing it was medicine, public health, disease prevention. Plaque below reads in English and Japanese both, September 1945. 16 Japanese women arrived at this camp expecting death. They received medicine, food, respect, and a choice. This is not a story about American perfection. America has made mistakes, committed atrocities, failed to live up to its ideals many times. Will continue to fail because perfection is impossible and humans are flawed. This is a story about individual choices, about soldiers who could have taken revenge but chose mercy, about prisoners who could have stayed bitter but chose gratitude, about people on both sides who refused to let hate define them, about the power of small kindnesses, warm water, a dry blanket, a man facing the wall, a doctor kneeling in mud, to shatter years of propaganda and hatred. May we remember that in war, the smallest choices can mean the difference between enemy and human. The ceremony is brief. Speeches, politicians, veterans, survivors. Keiko speaks last. 10 years ago, I stood in that tent believing I was about to die, believing Americans were demons who would torture me, believing surrender was the worst fate possible. I was wrong, not because Americans are perfect, they're not, no one is, but because individuals chose mercy when revenge would have been easier, chose humanity when cruelty would have been justified, chose to see me as a person instead of an enemy. She pauses, looks at Walsh, Morrison, Ellison, Reyes. Sergeant Walsh faced the wall. Dr. Ellison knelt in mud. Nurse Reyes learned my language. Private Morrison protected me from anger that was justified but destructive. They didn't have to do any of that. Would have been easier not to. Would have been understandable to choose otherwise. But they didn't. And that changed everything. Changed me from someone who believed lies into someone who seeks truth. Changed me from a soldier into a healer. Changed me from someone who saw enemies into someone who sees humans. The lesson isn't that Americans are better than Japanese, or that one side was right and the other wrong. War is never that simple. The lesson is that propaganda works by dehumanizing, makes us see others as less than human so we can do terrible things without guilt. And the antidote is simple. See the human, treat them as human, make choices that affirm humanity even when everything else says to choose cruelty. That's what happened here. That's what this museum preserves, not perfection. Just humanity. Simple, difficult, necessary. She steps down, applause, but quiet, respectful. People understanding they've witnessed something important. After the ceremony, the five of them stand before the display. Keiko looks at her jacket, frozen in glass, 10 years old. Permanent reminder. Morrison speaks quietly. Do you ever regret it? Surrendering instead of pulling the pin. Keiko doesn't hesitate. Every day I wake up grateful my legs were too broken to reach that grenade. Grateful I lived to learn the truth. Grateful I got to become someone better than the person I was. Walsh asks, what will you do now? Dr. Tanaka returned to Japan, open a medical school, train young doctors, Japanese American, whoever wants to learn. Teach them that healing knows no borders, that medicine serves humanity, not nations, that the best revenge against propaganda is truth lived daily. Ellison voice weak from wheelchair. I'm proud of you. Keiko kneels. Echo of Ellison kneeling in 1945. Eye level now, wheelchair and floor. You saved my life twice, Dr. Ellison. Once with surgery, once with showing me what mercy looks like. Everything I do is because you chose humanity when you could have chosen otherwise. They embrace. Carefully. Ellison is frail now. Bones like birds, but still here. Still present for this moment. Morrison helps Keiko stand. Sarah would have liked you, he says. Would have been proud to know her death taught me something that kept me from creating more deaths. Kept me from perpetuating the cycle. Keiko's eyes are wet. I think I would have liked her too. Think we would have understood each other. Two women terrified by the same war. Two women who believed lies. One who didn't survive them. One who did. The difference is luck, not virtue. Morrison reaches into his breast pocket, pulls out Sarah's letter one last time. The paper is nearly transparent now from a decade of handling. Worn soft as cloth at the creases, he unfolds it carefully. Shows Keiko the blood stain at the bottom. Brown, oxidized, permanent. This is the last time I carry this, he says quietly. I'm leaving it here, in the museum, where it belongs. Keiko looks at the fragile paper, understands what this means. You are letting her go, Morrison's voice cracks. Not letting go, letting her rest. There's a difference. She taught me not to hate. I've spent 10 years learning that lesson. I think I finally passed. Keiko reaches out, touches his hand. Brief, respectful. She would be very proud of you. I am certain of this. Morrison folds the letter for the final time. Each crease familiar. Each fold a decade of grief carefully managed. He walks to the museum curator standing nearby. This stays with the display, Morrison says. My sister's last words. Her last gift. Let people see what she tried to teach me. What it cost her to teach it. The curator takes the letter with reverent hands. Understands the weight of what she's holding. Morrison turns back to Keiko. Lighter now. Unburdened. Not healed, but healing. They exit the museum together. Alabama sunshine, May warmth, spring flowers blooming, dogwoods white against blue sky. Morrison walks beside Keiko. Ready to go. Yes. They walk toward the parking lot. Behind them through museum windows, the jacket remains. Silent witness, permanent reminder, evidence that humanity is possible, even in the darkest moments, if people choose it. Keiko stands at the museum exit, looks back one final time. Through the glass, her jacket hangs beside Sarah's letter. Walsh's choice, Ellison's mercy, Reyes's compassion, Morrison's forgiveness, all frozen in that moment. September 1945. Alabama rain. 16 terrified women. Take off your wet clothes. Words that once meant death now mean something else entirely. Remove the lies. Stand vulnerable. Let truth wash over you. Because on the other side of fear isn't death. It's warmth. It's healing. It's choice. Anata wa anzen desu. You are safe. 3 words. Every language. Every war. Every heart. She turns. Walks into Alabama sunshine. Behind her, the jacket remains. Silent witness. Permanent reminder. Humanity is possible, even in darkness, especially in darkness, if people choose it.